Hi guys, I welcome you all to the weekly answer writing series where we take up the PYQs. So the PYQ that I've taken up this time, this is from the recent 2022 Anthropology paper 2. So we are going to talk about the role of the governor in the fifth schedule areas. So now guys, fifth schedule areas and sixth schedule areas, these are also the part of our polity preparation. So not only in the anthropology paper but also in GS paper 2, in governance, ठीक है, in tribal development and all of that. तो उन सब में this is going to help you. So I am taking up these general topics for the PYQs so that हम कुछ paper 2 का भी side by side we cover it, right? So let's start with it. This is a 10 marker question and this one is the compulsory one. So the role of governor in the fifth schedule areas. But before that, we should know what are the fifth schedule areas, or what is the fifth and sixth schedule areas, right? So I've just given you the introduction. These are the schedules that are mentioned in the constitution, ठीक है, which gives the protection for the cultural distinctiveness of the tribes. So we know that we have tribes much like our other population. We have some tribal population and their culture, their identity is different from the other communities, right? So to protect their cultural distinctiveness, right, we have given them certain safeguards, certain protections, and these protections are given both in the fifth schedule and the sixth schedule. But difference क्या है? Difference है, even though both provide for the protection of the tribals for the economic disadvantages that they have faced and the tribal identity, the distinct tribal identity that they have, so that they can live without any coercion or exploitation by anybody, because we know that tribals have you can say the education levels are low, ठीक है, they are poor, they are illiterate, they are marginalized sections. So these sections are easier to be exploited. So we want to protect them, ठीक है, and that is precisely the right to equality that we have given us. So right to equality also gives the government the positive, it gives the government a positive proactive role to play. That means they have to protect the communities that are not at par, right? So for that we have made this fifth and sixth schedule. Both are working for the tribals, their economic disadvantages, but difference is that the interest of scheduled tribes outside the northeast is protected under the fifth schedule. That means sixth schedule में the tribals that are there in the northeast region वो cover होते हैं, and in the fifth schedule the other part of India. So scheduled areas have more than 50% of population. Now you got it कि northeast वाले regions जो हैं they are covered under sixth schedule, and rest of the mainstream India का जो मतलब rest of the India का part है they are covered in the fifth schedule, and in those fifth schedule they are known as the scheduled areas. So the areas where there is tribal population in the fifth schedule they are called as scheduled areas. So these scheduled areas have more than 50% of the tribal population. So you can say this can be a criteria. How do you see कि कौन सा area should be marked as a scheduled area? So they should have a significant tribal population, right? So that is why they will be called the scheduled areas. So the sixth schedule is related to the northeastern region, we have talked about it, and in northeastern 4 states are there: Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram. Abhi tak as of now these 4 are covered under the sixth schedule, and because these regions have a very different scheduled tribes within the district also. That means कि एक तो you should know that यहाँ पे north east में even in a state there is no homogeneity, even in a district there is no homogeneity. There are more than, you can say, 10 tribes in a district, right? So and they have vastly different culture, vastly different attributes from each other. So that is why sixth schedule को हमने थोड़ा सा different रखा है from the fifth schedule. So first thing first, you have understood what is the fifth schedule, right? That means fifth schedule में the areas that are covered इन द इंडियन मेनलैंड उसके पार्ट्स आ जाएंगे, ठीक है। एंड उसमें जो ट्राइबल पॉपुलेशन है दे आर कवर्ड अंडर द 5th शेड्यूल. नाउ इन द आर्टिकल 244 सब क्लॉज 1 of the constitution, expression scheduled area means such areas as the president may by order declare. That means what is the scheduled area? Any area which president declares under article 244 subclause 1 will be called as a scheduled area. ठीक है, first thing. Then the president may by order at any time direct that whole or any part of the scheduled area shall cease to be. ठीक है, he can increase the area of a scheduled area, he can alter, ठीक है, he can decrease the boundary, increase, change the name, ठीक है, rectify the boundaries, he can do anything, ठीक है. That means who is going to declare a scheduled area? It is going to be the president under article 244, ठीक है. He can do anything, वो he can join 2 or more scheduled areas into one, ठीक है. He can disintegrate one into more than one scheduled area, right? He can change the name of a scheduled area, ठीक है. He can put a new area under the scheduled area. So he can do all of this with the consultation of the governor of the state, ठीक है. So if he has to increase the areas or something like that, he will take the consultation from the governor. Now before we do the actual topic, which is the powers of role of governor in the 5th schedule areas, I want you to know what are 5th schedule areas, because our objective is not to only cover the topic but also study that topic in detail, right? So we'll go to the roles. First let us see. Now अभी हमको पता चल गया what is 5th schedule areas, which areas are covered, ठीक है, which who declares the 5th schedule areas and जो भी है. Now let us look at what are the criteria for declaring a scheduled area. So that means अभी तो हमने बोला था, that means हमने अभी we studied in one of the slide that 50% of the tribal population should be there, right? So you can also call this as a criteria, at least you can keep that in mind. So that means first is the preponderance of tribal population. Obviously that means if the area has a significant tribal population, only then can it be declared as a scheduled area. Then the area should be compact and reasonable size. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि we are declaring the whole India as a scheduled area, right? So it should have a preponderance of significant tribal population and the area should be compact or reasonable size, right? Then the underdeveloped nature of the area. That means as I told you, the tribal populations are mostly people who are not very you can say mainstreamed, or they are not at par with the other population, so they are underdeveloped. So areas those are underdeveloped, this is one criteria also. And where there is marked disparity in the economic standards of the people. That means the people that we are talking about, mostly the tribals in this case, and it's not like कि scheduled area में there cannot be any other population. Generally जो tribal areas हैं, obviously वहाँ पे कुछ non tribal population can also be there, but there you can say that the state in which they would be living also would be much like the tribals only. That means they will also be economically backward and underdeveloped. Now these criteria, these 4 things that we have talked about, that means preponderance of tribal population, compactness, underdevelopment, these are the criteria which are not given in the Constitution of India and they are not explicitly mentioned anywhere. But these we have taken from the principles established since, you can say, the Government of India Act 1935, ठीक है, when in the British era they described as excluded or partially excluded areas, or any of the recommendations of scheduled areas and scheduled tribe commissions of 1961. So these principles have been, you can say, the convention from the different acts like the 1935 Act or the recommendation of scheduled area and scheduled tribe commission. Now I think you have understood what are the 5th schedule areas. So now 5th schedule areas, ठीक है, what is written, it deals with the provision of constitution and control and administration of the scheduled areas. That means 244 article में क्या बोला है, there will be a scheduled areas and how to administer, control these scheduled areas is mentioned. ठीक है, so it deals with the constitution of a tribal advisory council. TAC हम बोलते हैं इसको for short. Let's call it TAC. ठीक है, so that means in this scheduled areas, ठीक है, now let us say that we have declared A as a scheduled area. Now in this scheduled area we are going to make a TAC, Tribal Advisory Council. Now what will this be? This will be a council that is going to aid and advise the governor, and governor is going to have the power to adapt laws passed by the parliament and state legislature in such a way that it suits these areas. Now we know that tribals are people who have distinct culture, and as such, you know, they have their own cultural heritage, right? So as it is, we cannot apply whatever is applying to the mainstream, because a lot of times there is a, you can say, a trust deficit is also there. ठीक है, they have been living their life on their own terms, on their own conditions. Many times they are not even, you know, they don't understand the constitutional provisions, and they have been the populations which have been isolated for years. So now we can't mainstream them like we can do maybe another a person from Delhi, right? So that is not possible. So we have to deal with them in a different way. That means in this case, governor has been given those powers to take care of these regions. That means what is going to happen? Governor is the person, ठीक है, who is going to oversee whether everything in the scheduled areas is according to and protects the cultural diversity and the advantage that the constitution has given to these areas, right? So governor इसमें आ गया, but the catch is that he is going to take help of the tribal advisory council. ठीक है, in this case he is not bound to take the advice of aid and advice of the council of minister. ठीक है, if he feels that something which the state legislature wants me to do is not in the benefit of the tribal or the scheduled areas per se, so he can reject that advice. That means इधर उसके लिए aid and advice का काम कौन करेगा? It will be the tribal advisory council. ठीक है, so it provides the governor with the power to make regulation for good governance and peace for that area. So that means for governor, if there is any scheduled area in his state, ठीक है, he has a special role to play, and that special role is to do good governance there, ठीक है, and to maintain peace in that region, and obviously to work for the benefit of the tribal people in those scheduled areas. So now in the fifth schedule, the tribal advisory council that we are going to have, it is going to consist of scheduled tribe MLAs. For example, there is a state legislature and they have members, obviously they will have members, and the tribal members, the tribal MLAs from the legislature are going to be the members of tribal advisory council. ठीक है, so पहली बात समझ आ गई, the tribal MLAs are going to be the members of the tribal advisory council, and they are going to be 3/4 of the total membership. That means 3/4 of the total are 20 members. Generally in a TAC there are 20 members, so 3/4 would be 15 in this case. So 15 would come from the tribal MLAs. ठीक है, and if there are no people, for example there are less tribal MLAs, ठीक है, so in that case you can just take people from tribal population. That means any other member from a tribal community can be a part of the tribal advisory council. ठीक है, this tribal advisory council is made under the provisions of 5th schedule and is a constitutional body, because 6th schedule is schedule mentioned in the Constitution of India, and anything which is mentioned in the Constitution becomes a constitutional thing, right? So ये body का mention is there in the Constitution, so that is why it's a constitutional body, and it works towards promotion of educational and economic interest of the tribals. So in short, it has to work to reduce the underdevelopment and increase the welfare for the tribal population. So it aims for the social justice, very important word. You should always remember the word social justice, because justice is also mentioned in our preamble, and it is one of the key ideas on which our democracy works. So social justice की बात करता है to the tribals and prevent them from any exploitation, either from the outsiders, either from anybody, right? So and this is about कि टैग बनाना है, टैग के मेंबर्स के बारे में, ठीक है. एंड दे आर ऑल्सो गिवन स्पेशल फंडिंग. So special financial assistance from the government is given under the article 275 for implementations of scheme under the scheduled areas. ठीक है. So I hope this point is also clear. Now we'll go to the areas that have fifth schedule areas. So we have 10 states at present who have the fifth schedule areas. So namely Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Himachal, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, Rajasthan, Telangana. Now you don't need to mug up this because I don't think anybody would ask. Maybe in a prelims paper you can be asked any states, but then you can have a rough idea of the tribal population in the Indian states, and then uske basis pe you can just remember. ठीक है. Now let's go to the okay, I think this slide we have done already. So now let's go to the powers of governor under the fifth schedule. Okay, now this is the question that has been asked ki what are the provisions or powers or role of governor under fifth schedule, but you could not have done it जब तक आपको fifth schedule का idea नहीं होता, right? So that is why we have done the fifth schedule, and now we'll look at the role and powers of governor. So first thing, whatever application of the fifth schedule has to be done, it is under the governor's supervision. So governor has to make sure that the constitutional machinery in this case is working properly. ठीक है. So he enjoys the power to modify, annul or limit the application of any law made by either parliament or state legislature in the scheduled area. So that means whatever parliament, either parliament or state legislature, if passes any law, and if the governor feels that this law is going to hamper with the tribal laws or tribal welfare के साथ, this is not going to be of benefit to it, so he can just modify or even not apply that law. In cases he cannot apply also. ठीक है. Not only modify but he can restrict the law, ठीक है, from application. So for good governance we have talked about he has to maintain good governance and peace in the region, and how he is going to do the good governance and peace is, let's look at that. So first thing that he regulates the land allotments. That means देखो, first of all you should know that the tribals, they have a different culture, so many times they do not have the concept of land holding, ठीक है, and private ownership of land. So in the older times they used to have a community ownership. So because they were living in those areas, they never thought about ki there should be private ownership of land. So that is why sometimes the outsiders would marry the girls of the tribe and then would take away their land, right? Because they would register the land, right? So many cases where they have been exploited and their land have been taken from them. So governor has to make sure that there is no land allotment happening to anybody without the oversight of the tribal advisory council and the governor himself. So he regulates that. Then he regulates any business money lending in the fifth schedule areas, because क्या होता था, the money lenders used to give tribals money, ठीक है, कि you can take loan, because bank would never give a loan to a tribal because he has no livelihood, उसका कुछ record नहीं है whether he'll be able to give back the money or not. So they would take money from the money lenders, and these money lenders, what will they do? They will give money and then they will charge exorbitant prices, exorbitant interest rate, ठीक है. So they would start exploiting, and for peanuts they would take away their land, their resources, their assets. So to regulate that, because these were the practical problems that were there in the tribal areas and the nearby areas. So Now the rule has been made कि if any money lending has to be done, ठीक है, governor would have a oversight, ठीक है, then governor has the power to make rules prescribing or regulating the number or member of the council, their appointment and chairman, who will be the chairman. So we have talked about कि TAC होता है. Now who will be the member of TAC, because other जो 1/4 members हैं they are nominated also, ठीक है. 3/4 तो हमने बोल दिया ट्राइबल होंगे, 1/4 will be nominated also. So who are going to be the members, their appointment, ठीक है, everything is going to be managed by governor, ठीक है. Then the meetings, when are they going to be conducted, what is the procedure that is going to be used while conducting the meetings, that is also maintained by the or over looked by the governor, ठीक है. Then the governor make regulations about the good governance and peace, we have talked about it. Land का, ठीक है, money lending का, we have talked about this. And any law, ठीक है, of the act of parliament and वो सब हमने बात कर लिया, ठीक है. So no regulation shall be made by the governors in case TAC exists, consult such TAC. For example, अब मैंने बोला कि governor क्या है, basically he works on the aid and advice of the council of minister. But in the case of scheduled areas, ठीक है, the advice of TAC becomes important, ठीक है. So in that cases TAC का involvement ज़्यादा हो जाता है, ठीक है. But you can say the president has the power to direct that any part of the scheduled area. So you can say in short, अगर हम normally बात करें तो president, parliament is at the federal level or the center level, and then we have state legislature and governor at the state level, right. But in the cases of scheduled areas, you can say president is an authority with whom governor keep the liaison, ठीक है, and this governor further takes advices from the tribal advisory committee and the council of ministers, ठीक है. So he has to keep liaison with the governor, ठीक है. So this is the pattern that is followed. So anything which the governor does, ठीक है, has to come into effect only after when it is accepted by the president. So president accept करेगा, then only any regulation made by the governor would come into effect, ठीक है. Not like the usual pattern that is followed in the federal democracy. So governor also submits annual reports to the president, ठीक है. So annually, because he is keeping liaison directly with the president, and president is the who is having a oversight on the area. So governor gives the annual reports to the president, ठीक है. And if there is any amendment, that means अगर parliament change करता है, parliament can change anything in the 5th schedule and 6th schedule, obviously, because the parliament can amend the constitution, right. But if it does any changes in the 5th schedule, it is not deemed to be an amendment under article 368. That means it is not amending the constitution, ठीक है. Generally any amendment to the constitution is done from article 368, but any changes in the 5th schedule is not deemed to be amendment under article 368. So I hope you have understood, and these were all you can say the role of governor which you have to write. So basically that is a 10 marker question, and you have to write 2 pages. So you will start by introducing, थोड़ा सा you will tell about the 5th schedule, the article 244, ठीक है, then scheduled areas, and and then you will start with the role of governor, ठीक है. Then role of governor you will tell, and then you can just tell the criticism also on the role of governor, ठीक है. Because what is the point is कि हम role of governor की बात कर रहे हैं, so we'll write only what we know about governor in that question, right, not about everything else, right. So criticism भी है, जैसे for example missing governor reports, that means record क्या बोलता है, जैसे for example annually they have to submit a report. So if they had to submit in the past 22 years, they had to submit 189 reports, but till date only 66 reports have been given out of 189. So you can see that means the role of governor has been not taken that seriously, and they are not taking out their role accordingly. ठीक है, this can be the first criticism. Then the second criticism on role of governor is seen that many times, जैसे मैंने बार बार आपको बोला कि TAC, he governor has to take the uh, aid and advice from the TAC, but many times it has been seen that council of ministers overpower, and the advice of TAC is mostly and many times not taken or overlooked. ठीक है, so he is more biased, you can say, towards the advices given to him by the council of ministers. Then vacancy in the TAC, ठीक है, as हमने बोला कि appointment जो है that is done by governor, ठीक है, but there have been seen that TAC में बहुत बड़ी vacancy is there, ठीक है, and then political capture of TAC, that means क्या करेगा, governor would appoint people who are his own people, that means it is not a fair process. The people who are wanted by the tribals or those scheduled area are not taken, and the people of political affiliation are often appointed. ठीक है, then implementation, that means many a time the ideas that TAC, the ideas or any because TAC क्या करेगा, rules and regulations बनाएगा for the scheduled areas, but their rules and regulations are often neglected and they are not taken. Then annual report to the parliament की तो बात कर ही ली है हमने कि annual report are not taken into consideration. So this is what you can say, and in recommendation you can further say that he should work in with the help of the TAC, ठीक है, उनकी vacancies, there should be annual appointments वगैरह proper होनी चाहिए, annual report president को देनी चाहिए, all of that you can say. So with this we complete our PYQ. I hope you liked it, guys, and if you did, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.